Hey, this is Ezra from Vampire Weekend, and this is the story behind the song Worship You. At the time we wrote it, we were kind of in LA. Rustam and I were both out there, and we decided to get together and kind of casually start working on the next album. We didn't know exactly what we'd be getting up to, but I went over to the place he was staying. There's this nice piano there, and we're just kind of showing each other ideas we had, and I showed him this like simple thing I'd written on the piano, which was basically the verse and the chorus of the song, but I was really playing it very simply on the piano, just kind of dong, dong, and just kind of singing it for him, and immediately he was into it. And he got some ideas. We went into this studio that was at the house. I think the first thing we did was he jumped on the drum set actually and just started with the bum ba ba dum ba ba dum ba ba dum because he immediately had this idea for a rhythm for it. And then I was playing an unplugged electric guitar and I just kind of followed him, went dung ga ga dung ga ga dung ga ga dung. That's basically when it first came together. Was at the first writing session for the album. Only in the way, you want it only on the day, you want it only with the understand, and every single day you want it only in the way, you want it only on the day, you want it only with the understand, and every single day. The lyrics are about a lot of different things. I mean, first of all, these are some of the fastest lyrics we've ever had in Vampire Weekend. But overall, the lyrics of Worship You are about kind of believing in something, you know, whether it's a religious belief or a political belief, putting all your faith in that and then coming to this other point where you start to question it. And I think that's something that everybody's been through at one point or another in their life. It could be on a personal level, it could be bigger than that. But the idea that there's something that like you worship, that you totally leaned on, and then you kind of had to think twice. It left you, it went away, and you were kind of back on your own for a second. Musically, it reminds me of the Pogues. We've always loved Irish music, and especially the Pogues, with their punky, energetic take on traditional Irish music, and we always thought of this as being kind of like a Celtic song. Rustam's keyboard solo, he definitely thought of that in terms of Persian music, and I think you can hear it, even though it's like on a synth, you can hear some of the bends and the kind of scales that he's using. You can feel that. So it's kind of like this mix of Persian music, Irish music. It's got these like big kind of electronic element with these like 808s dropping, so a lot of different stuff in there. As a band, we've been inspired by artists who have discographies that you can look back on and really see progression. And we love so much music, and I think some people are just all about singles, some people are about albums. I don't think it matters. We kind of like album bands, career bands, that from each album was a chapter in the book, a part of the story. And in the current day, probably the people who are doing that best, I'd say, are probably Kanye and Drake.
Only live once, that's the motto, get YOLO, and we bout it every day.
Historically, going back in the day, Radiohead, The Clash, and probably the people who kind of invented this idea of the band putting out albums and kind of building a career. The Beatles, you look at them from beginning to end, they kind of set the template that I think all pop music follows from. When I hear our music on the radio, it's still special because, you know, we're getting played on the radio. It's still a little bit crazy just to hear your music side by side with all these other people. I definitely still get a thrill out of it when it happens. We make our music primarily for ourselves, and after that the fans, and then somewhere down there, of course, it's nice to get played on the radio, but we don't make it for the radio, so it always kind of feels like that's something I don't think we'll ever get jaded about. Every time we get played on the radio, it kind of feels like exciting, like, wow, somebody actually likes us. That was behind the song Worship You with me, Ezra from Vampire Weekend, and now this is Worship You on BBC Radio 1.